The main philosophy of Centennial Partnerships is to mitigate risk through diversification, and that includes a group of horses and a group of people. But we don't want to take away the experience and the fun of the sport, so we limit the number of people in each partnership. We try to make the experience for people as exciting and as memorable as possible.
Blood Horse Plus, available through bloodhorse.com, provides exclusive, timely, and unmatched content to subscribers, including Fox Sports, Blood Horse branded weekly programs, a detailed stakes winners section, behind-the-scenes videos from Blood Horse staff, on-demand access to deeper horse statistics, and a $5 monthly credit to equineline.com. Upgrade to Blood Horse Plus today.
Are you paying too much in taxes? The Green Group can help. There's a reason the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisors. They save you money and share successful strategies. Over the past 40 years, the Green Group founder, Len Green, has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport, like Eclipse Award-winning champions Jaywalk and Wonderwheel. His DJ stable competes at the highest level and has received the game's most prestigious honors. Len Green's in-depth, hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the thoroughbred business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100. or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
Hi, my name is Gary Falter with the Jockey Club. Just like to welcome everyone to today's online panel. Now, this is the fifth panel in our series of panels for this year. And today's panel, we're going to talk about preparing for race day. And before we get started, just like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors. Starting with our presenting sponsors, Bessemer Trust, Stoll Keenan Ogden, and the Green Group. I'd also like to thank today's panel sponsor, Centennial Farms, and our Q&A sponsor at the very end of the panel, West Point Thoroughbreds. The support of all the sponsors allows us to offer these online conferences at no charge to you. So special thanks and recognition for the support of the sponsors. Okay, so we got a lot of ground to cover today, and if you have a question for any one of the panelists, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and submit your question, and at the end of the panel, we'll answer as many of the questions as time allows, okay? So I'm going to introduce our speakers. I'm going to start with trainer Kenny McPeek. I think, Kenny, you're muted right now, your video muted, so let's see if you can pop up here. There's Kenny. Okay, Kenny's in Saratoga right now. As you probably remember, Kenny trained Preakness winner Swiss skydiver a few years ago. Welcome, Kenny.
Thanks for having me.
Also today, we've got trainer Joe Sharp. Joe trained the Haskell Grade 1 winner Gervin. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us is a last-minute addition, and certainly last but not least is trainer Jena Antonucci. Did I get that right?
You did.
Right. All right. So we all know she trained the Belmont winner from this last week, and we're going to talk about Arcangelo here in just a little bit. So welcome, Jena.
Thank you.
And we have one more speaker who's going to join us a little bit late, Ramiro Restrepo. And you'll remember Ramiro, he was one of the owners of this year's Kentucky Derby winner Mage. So he'll be joining us here shortly. So let's get started. So getting an owner and their horses ready for race day, there's a lot of behind the scenes activities that take place. So today we're going to talk about and look into some of those preparations, just to help better understand what are some of those behind the scenes efforts. And before we do, we've got some videos from America's Best Racing of all of our speakers and some of the results and some of the emotions that go through on race day. Okay, so let's start off with Joe. You prepared Gervin to run in the Grade 1 Travers a few years ago, so we've got a video of that. And I think it was right after he won the Grade 1 Haskell.
My name is Joe Sharp. We're here at Saratoga Racecourse. Today's a big day for us. It's Travers Day, and we have Gervin in the Travers. We're looking forward to a top performance from Gervin today. Along with that, making sure the day goes smooth from the routine of training all morning to making sure the owners have their seats, everybody's in the right place at the right time, kids are dressed for the day, and pretty much the whole day to go flawless and end up with a victory as a reward for everybody's efforts. So we're gonna head up and watch this set train. This is our last set of the day. We're finished pretty early today. These horses are all just gonna jog 2 miles. Most days they gallop, but today this is a light day for these horses. What are you doing, bud? You having a nap?
How's it going? It's a long wait until 6 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, I know,
I
right?
hate that one. It's just,
I know.
right?
Yeah, I bought him on the 2-year-old sale in OBS in March. He's huge.
So,
Look how big he is. He's a 2-year-old. You're a star, aren't you, buddy? That's impressive for a 2-year-old's day. That's his first time out, too. The state vet's here to evaluate Gervin, check over him, make sure that everything's copacetic before the big race, watch him jog on the road to evaluate his soundness. And it's the last check before the big race, so. We're gonna head over to the racing office and take care of some things and pick up our tickets for the day.
Paddock passes, did you get any of that?
I do not
Go
have
by
that.
Martin, because are you only in the Travers today?
Yes, ma'am.
He's got the
Just the
Travers.
All right, thanks, Martin. Take care. Thank you. No, those are coming now.
Those are coming now. Gervin. We're not worried about Gervin. Yeah, we got this one.
Now we're headed up to the boxes to see Brad Grady, Gervin's owner, and come up with a plan on how we want to organize going over to the paddock. Nice to see you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That was
I
impressive.
hope you have as good as luck.
Me too.
We'll be in the winner's circle.
All right, so now it's time to go back to the barn and get the big horse ready for the big race. You're gonna go on the golf cart. Oh, that's cute. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Mwah. Gervin's standing in ice right now. We do that before every race with every horse to keep their legs cool and tight before a big performance. These are just in case, to protect him in case he steps on himself, walking over to keep him from catching himself or ripping his shoe off. This is the walk over to what we call the holding barn. That's where we have to, all the horses assemble before the races. Everyone gets together and leaves as one to go to the paddock from there. Good luck.
Thank you, brother.
Me too. Dude, I've never seen him like you. I've never seen him like he is right now. All right, let's go. Come on in, guys. We got room. 5-1. How much you bet?
They're off in the Travers, and West Coast comes out running 2.5 to looking at Lee, who's alongside of Gervin, their way into the far turn.
There he goes, he's third. Come on, Gervin! He's hurt, making the lead. Come on, Gervin!
There's Gonovera, who's blasting by horses on the far outside.
Oh, he's not. I lost him.
And they're into the stretch, and it's West Coast. Irad confronts him. West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire in the Travers.
Well, today didn't go quite as planned. We still have a healthy horse and, plenty more races left on the year. But we did have a great day with the family and the owners, and it was a good experience all in all. One thing I've learned about this business is, tomorrow comes and, there's plenty more races, and Gervin has had a fantastic year up to this point, and I'm sure we'll close it out as strong as he started it. These days are great, but they are exhausting, and we're looking forward to having a nice, peaceful evening at home and recouping, and come back out tomorrow morning with a fresh attitude and a fresh start.
Okay, so Joe, why don't you spend a couple minutes just talking about that day and all that you went through just to prepare Gervin, for the Travers. I mean, you can't win them all. We know that. But just talk about that process and what that day was like.
Well, I mean, obviously, a day like that is, very exciting and very stressful. We were coming in on quite a high. He was coming off the Haskell victory going into the Travers, so our level of confidence was very high, and physically he was doing incredible. So we had a lot of confidence in the horse, but those days are always, they're loaded because, you have all the time, the energy invested. You have, your horse is at his best, and in the case that he was, and you had cameras on you all day, literally following you from the start of the morning till the end of the day, as you can see there. And at the end of the day, you have to. It ends up being a character building moment, and you have to dust yourself off and come back home and reevaluate what you had, and try to pull the positive experiences from the day. And we've one of the biggest personal growths I think I've learned over the years as a trainer is to become a good loser. And my career started out very crazy successful, and you quickly realize that it is a humbling game, and that's one of the biggest things that you have to learn, is not to let the highs get too high or the lows get too low, because you've got to dust yourself off and lead your team the next day into battle, and your horses and your crew all feed off your energy. So that day was great. We were very proud to even be in that position. But like I said, we were obviously disappointed with the outcome, but the horse owed us nothing on the year.
Okay. Yeah. Great win in the Haskell, and just being in the Travers is a great accomplishment. Sure. Okay. So now we're going to jump over to trainer Kenny McPeek, and we're going to look at a video of Daddy's Little Darling running in the Grade 1 Ashland Stakes at Keeneland a few years back. So let's go ahead and cue up that video and watch that, Kenny preparing for that race and the result of that race.
She's shown talent since she first came in. When we first started working her last spring and summer, she, from the beginning, she was fast. Marty, let's do over here in the shade. Marty, I know her undergirth is too big. Let's get another one. This one's too small, Marty. I'm just kidding. You know how she made this middle move right there? I don't think you can do that.
No.
Yeah, just be patient with her. Yeah, just be a good passenger, and then uncork her when you need her.
Got it.
Good luck.
Soon is quick into stride, comes right out for the lead. Sailor's Valentine there toward the outside. Pretty City Dancer gets away in third. Elate is away fourth, quickly settles against the rail for that move into the first turn. Daddy's Little Darling is running late from third. Deep stretch of the Central Bank Ashland. Sailor's Valentine, Daddy's Little Darling, Sailor's Valentine wins at a half length.
All right, I'll meet y'all down there. This is about where we wanted her to be, and of course we want to win a race like this, but awful special filly. I'm sure she'll go to the Kentucky Oaks, no doubt.
So Kenny, a nice second in the Ashland, and then you ran her back in the Oaks, and she ran second in the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks. So, talk for a moment about the importance of those Grade 1 placings for a filly like Daddy's Little Darling.
Well, in that case, Nancy Polk also owned the mare. And so certainly anytime you can get Grade 1 or even Grade 2 and Grade 3 placings for a filly, that they bring kind of an unknown value. And in the long run, they can't take that away from a filly. And so when they go to the broodmare band, yeah, it's a big deal. You can't put a exact number on it, but it's there.
So Kenny, I don't know if you have some kind of a crystal ball, But soon after she ran second in the Oaks and second in the Ashland, you put her on the grass. And she wins graded stakes races on the grass off doing so well in the dirt. She won a grade 1. So what happened? How did you determine she's a turf horse?
Well, I do believe a good horse will run over about anything. And in her case, she was a big, leggy, long pastern type of horse. And I had been dying to get her onto the turf. We took her to England, and unfortunately, she had what I'd call an eventful trip over there and didn't get a chance to participate, having gotten loose in the post parade. That was a really humbling day. Running bad's
she got loose in the post parade.
Running bad's one thing, but not getting to run at all was really hard. But fortunately, they had let's just say financially incentivized our trip, and so there was no harm, no foul. But later in the year, she ended up winning the American Oaks on the grass at 1.25 miles at Santa Anita, and that kind of justified the switch to the grass. But certain horses can handle the switch, certain horses can't. It just depends on their conformation and their mental makeup. And I've always been one to try a horse, especially if they had the right type of foot. And you don't want to send a club-footed horse to a grass race, but it just depends on the animal.
Okay, well, great selection, great choice. So, all right, now we're going to jump over to Jena. And as we all know, Arcangelo won the Belmont Stakes this past Saturday. So here's a video of Jena as she watches the race. And I think they even have a thumbnail of the actual stretch run of the race. So let's bring up that video.
Go by him now. Yes. Yes. Go by him now. Come on, Hardy. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Run. Come on, Hobby. Pick him up. Come on, Hobby. Come on, Hobby. Come on. Let's go. Come on, Hobby. Come on, Hobby. Come on, Hobby. Come on. Pull it back. Come on, Hobby. Come on. Come on, Hobby. Come on, Hobby. Come on. Let me out. Come on. Come on. Run. Run. Oh my God. Oh my God. Regis, what? Big Rock. You're going to perfect.
Well, if that doesn't bring a smile to your face, you probably ought to check your heartbeat. What a great video. Great outcome, Jena. A huge congratulations from everyone here, all the audience and everyone in the industry for, such a historic win. And not just because you're the first woman to win one of the classics, you won one of the classics. I mean, that's a historic event in itself. So talk about that race, that moment, the emotions, and what's it been like for you the last few days?
It's been busy. It's definitely been busy. Just so grateful for there's been a lot of gracious support in the industry and outside the industry. And that part I'm immensely grateful for, and super grateful for this horse and his desire to be a champion. And really didn't lean into the historical aspect of it beforehand. I'm a big one on trying to stay in the moment and not get too far forward. And as Joe stated before very well, this is a game of immense highs and immense lows. And so you're always trying to, hedge the middle a little bit for your own sanity and your own well-being. But obviously we didn't expect to come up the rail. We had a lot of conversations about it and thought we would probably be fading wide just to give him a good, big, clear run to get his cruising speed going. And so my reaction was literally when I watched the inside just stay open. And he overcame a little bit of a dead rail at day 2 to run home like he did. And, we sent him up there eye to eye with National Treasure. And it was like, oh my God, we're doing this. And then just to watch him explode and go. And part of the strategy that day was they're going to have to catch us. He has an amazing sustained cruising speed, and so he could get a little jump. Never in a million years that we'd also be able to cut the corner. as well, that, he wanted to position him out in the middle of the track. Then afterwards that they'd have to go around us to beat us. And so, yeah, I mean, just watching all of that unfold and just, it's really, it's just,
Yeah. It was just an amazing day, amazing result. And we're going to talk about your horse here in a little bit. But what I want to do now, Ramiro hasn't joined us yet. I had a few questions for Ramiro about the Kentucky Derby. But when he joins us, we'll jump back to that. So why don't let's just talk about preparing horses for race day and starting with maidens. So there's many steps in preparing a horse to be competitive on race day. And for a horse that's a first-time starter, how's it different in the race preparation for a first-time starter? And we'll just start with Kenny. Kenny, why don't you talk about what's it like for having to prepare one of those 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds for their first starts?
Yeah, sure. So I probably don't put any emphasis on winning first time out. I think it's nice, but we like to get a horse what I'd call 85% first time out. And I like to let them break out of the gate. And Brian Hernandez rides a lot of my young horses. And over the years, I've ridden a lot of really talented guys. But my pretty much standard instruction is break clean, settle, be patient, and then make a finish. And I've always believed that for a horse to win a really big race, they can't become one-dimensional. I believe that if you're not careful, if you send them away from there in that first start, they can mentally remember that. And then the next time out, they do the same thing. And the next thing you know, you've got a horse that's a little speed crazy and hasn't really learned the process of coming from behind. We get beaten quite a few times first time out because, I usually take them back a little bit and then make a finish. But the ones that win first time out are the ones to get excited about. And then sometimes it takes a horse a few races for them to figure out what I call where the quarter pole is. And that's where I really want them running, is from the quarter pole to the wire. And a lot of it's repetition, spending a lot of time, even when they're working further, they start off in quarters and then they go 3/8, but they're still finishing from the quarter pole to the wire. And even in the races in the afternoons, they need to learn how to do that.
Okay. So Joe, you want to add anything to that on preparing the horse for their first start? Some of the routines you go through?
Well, I don't think you diversified your trainer very well here when you come to first time starters, because we're 3 of them about the same, I think. We don't win a lot first time out as well. Not that we don't win a lot first time out, but we don't target it. I'm kind of the same nature as far as, I think there's nothing more frustrating and the same for an owner than a horse that breaks and goes to the front and then, empties out at the 8th pole and first time out, and you don't really know what you have. And Kenny's right in the fact that it does seem to mentally, it can become a bit of a pattern and cheapen them a little bit if you're not careful. So, I think we don't necessarily have them geared up to win first time out. It is always very nice and surprising when they do. But long term, I think the horses that are able to settle and finish with energy the first few times, and then go on to get their second or third time out, are the ones that we seem to do it better with down the road. So for us, it's not a huge target first time out winning, but obviously we never look it in the mouth if it happens.
Yeah. Now, Jena, I think Arcangelo, he won his 3rd start. It was 2nd in his first start, and then 4th, and then he wins. So, talk about, your preparation of him for his first start, and what are your thoughts on just preparing these young horses for that first out?
What we look for is for them to accomplish everything we've taught them well, from paddock to saddling to gait, ponying, all of those other factors that all of us put into these horses before they go and the gate the first time. If we're checking all those boxes and they're handling all that professionally and calmly, those are the foundational things to move forward, because they're going to need those pieces throughout their career. And so I don't want to see something just losing its mind and not being able to understand what's happening. And so that's a huge focus for us. Arcangelo went through all those same steps that everybody else does, but the same as what Joe and Kenny is saying. We want a really good experience, good first experience. I'm not going to drill a horse and breeze and breeze and breeze and breeze a horse and have him overfit for that first race. I think.
Whoops. We might have lost Jena temporarily. Are you there? There you are, Jena. Wonderful internet.
But I think I'm back.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not sure where you lost me, but it's, for us, it's again wherever I broke out. But for us, it's about horses gaining their getting experience in that first race and really growing and being able to carry that forward to their next races.
Okay, great. So Ramiro has joined us. How are you, Ramiro? Glad you can get with us. Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Gary. Was it at 2:30 or was I crazy?
That's all right. 2:00, but you're here. That's all that matters.
So sorry.
So,
I could have sworn it was 2:30.
Just to introduce you, he's got that Mage hat on. So one of the Kentucky Derby winning owners. And we're talking about young 2-year-olds right now and first-time starters, Ramiro. And then I'm going to come back and circle back to you with some ownership questions, okay?
Sure, not at all. Thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, so so a lot of horses race at 2, many don't. How does a trainer know that a young horse is a candidate to race at 2? Is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Or both? So, Kenny, why don't you jump in and just talk about that whole process of determining, will a horse even race at 2?
Well, a lot of things have to go right when they're 2. You have to hope that they don't buck shins, which does happen in a percentage of the young horses. You want to see a horse that has some precocity. Certainly on a physical, the way that they're made, you wouldn't want a big, long, rangy type horse with a big flat foot to start in a 5 furlong race. You may want to be patient, wait for a mile grass race or something like that. It really depends on conformationally how they're made, how they're bred. When we go to auction, I look for them in all different shapes and sizes. So it'll really depend upon what type of horse that I think I'm handling. And in some cases, like I've got young horses that I'm waiting for Ellis Park when they go a mile grass, because I know that they're big, long hips, maybe a little bigger type horse. Whereas an early 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, which is really not my forte very, very much, although I win a few of those. But that type of horse is a horse that I typically, we can press a little bit early and hope that they come together early and then go from there. So they're all different. And, you just have to take the horse as an individual.
Okay. So let me ask you, are there special workout routines for these young maidens? How often do you breeze a young horse before it's ready to race? I think, Jenna, you had said just a moment ago, you don't breeze them 10, 12, 14 times. Talk a little bit about, is there a formula or is it just horse by horse?
I think it's important to be a horse by horse. Sometimes your bigger numbers, there becomes a formula, but we're a horse by horse. And I tend to give a little more time. As we're getting closer, we may squeeze in a 7 and 7 and 7 just to kind of really top off that tightening. But I'm a big proponent of a 10 to 14 day schedule on a 2-year-old. You're dealing with biomechanics on a horse, you're dealing with mental maturity. And so it's just finding that balance for each individual horse of, this one may need a few days just to finish sorting things out and make sure we're mentally in the right place. So it's a balance. I think we all subscribe to that. We'd love to put him in a routine. Ownership, I think, would love to see him in a routine. It becomes predictable and whatnot. But if we're being horse forward, as I think everyone's really trying to lean into, then it's sometimes you got to pump the brakes and make sure that you're giving them space they need to develop mentally and physically.
Okay. So as far as putting a foundation in a young horse, Joe, what about daily gallops? How far do horses go on a daily basis? They can't breeze every day, obviously, but they're going to go out and gallop a mile, 2 miles. How fast do they go? Do they go by themselves? Do they go in company? So what's that process on a day-to-day exercise routine for a young horse, especially a first-time starter?
Well, so that's case sensitive as well. It all depends kind of the background that they come from. If we get horses that come from, say the 2-year-old training sales and things like that, those horses, when they get to us, are much more switched on, and it'll be most of the time when they come in, aside from the first day or two, when we'll start them in company, galloping with another horse. From that point on, they're generally going to gallop by themselves because they already kind of know what speed is, and you're trying to mentally slow them down and physically get them back to basically you're trying to work backwards a little bit just to get them back in a place where you want them to be. And whereas a horse that would come from say was bought out of a yearling sale and has been broke at the farm and at a training center and kind of came from a different style and a different speed of training, when they come to the racetrack, it's kind of like bright lights for the first time, first time in the spotlight. So those kind of horses will need a lead, will need some company. And those are horses that'll, will tend to gallop in company every day with a partner, sometimes with one on either side, 3 abreast. Generally, just depending on their fitness levels, we take horses at all levels as far as fitness. Some come in breezing quarter miles, some come in half-mile fit. But, basically they'll go gallop anywhere from a mile to a mile and a half, daily. And then, their work regimen will depend, like Jena was saying, based on what they're physically telling us and mentally telling us they can take. With these 2-year-olds, it's a lot of stop, start, pause, back off, jog, back to gallop, and just kind of listening and relying on your team to where they're to being on top of their legs and their bodies daily, just because things are always changing. They're like kids, and they really will let you know if you listen to them, especially early on.
Okay, so these young horses, Jen, I'll throw this question at you. I think Joe might even mention it when he was talking here. Do they go to the track every day? I mean, do they ever get a day off where they just don't go to the track, or maybe they walk the shed row, or do something different, or is it nearly every day, 7 days a week, going to the racetrack to gallop?
I think because my background wasn't through the racetrack, and I was, came from a different background of show horse world and stuff. I'm a proponent for days off. And I think, it allows the barn, the staff, the horses to catch their breath. So we always walk the day after, and they get turned out in a round pen. We try and have a round pen wherever we're stabled to allow them to be horses. So I know other people, they are a 7-day, they'll breeze one day, jog the next or whatever. And it works for them. For my program, I'm a less is more sometimes. And so we like to give them that day of downtime, let their bodies recover, let their minds recover, give them that minute. Next day they'll jog and have an easy day and then go back into their training routine. That's how it works for us.
Okay. So Kenny, for a horse to start, they have to have a gate card. I mean, what's that process? I mean, a horse just doesn't go to the starting gate and break out of it one time and all of a sudden they're good to go. I believe it's a process that they have to go through, the horse. Can you talk about that a little bit, what that's like, and how long it may take for a horse to get approved to start from the gate?
We start our young horses in Ocala at a facility called Silverleaf Hills, and we have a starting gate on the gap. So when they walk onto the racetrack, they walk through the starting gate, typically, and some days coming and going. So they're familiar with walking in and out. At some point in time over the course of the winter, probably closer to February, we start closing them up. When they're locked in, then you get them into a habit of opening doors so that when the horse, when the doors open, they expect to leave. And so once again, it's repetition. It takes a team of people. You've got to have people on the ground. You have to have people that are willing to climb up into the gate with them. We typically have 2 days a week gate crew where we pay a group of guys to come in and handle the gate details. And then as spring comes, the ones that are more precocious, the ones that have learned their lessons, you can lock in and start loading. And then there's the process of ringing a bell behind a horse, which is the kind of a next stage. And then once you get them up to what I'd call about 80%, then we'll bring them to Keeneland or Churchill. And then they'll take the, what I'd call the A-track gate cruise. And then they'll spend even more time with them. They'll go to the backside of Keeneland where we use the 4.5 furlong chute to stand, school, gallop out. They may gallop out one day a week. Sometimes they need a little more than that. And then once they've broken a couple of times, we'll do a lot of standing and backing out so that they don't think that they have to break every time they go over there. So there's a little trickery to it. Mm-hmm. And then once the horse starts leaving clean and has eliminated a lot of the nervousness of the starting gate, then at that point, they're pretty close to running.
Okay. So it sounds like a real process that they go through. What would that take? Weeks, months for that process?
Month. And the more time you take, the better. And then you have to coordinate the workouts according to the gates too. So my preference is to maybe get a horse up to probably a half a mile before they even think about doing a gate work. They might even spend some time flopping from the gate, which is what I'd call a fast gallop out, and then working from the 3 furlong pole to the wire and then on out. So once again, you're concentrating on the finish and the workout. And then as they get closer, some horses do it easy and some horses are slower students. So you figure that out as they come. And then you try to match them so that let's say you've got a big leggy chestnut colt and a bay colt who's similar made. You want them coming out together. That way they're kind of the same speed. You don't want to put the small blocky one against the big lanky one because they'll come out at different speeds. Mm-hmm. And there's not much to be learned doing that.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add, Joe or Jena, before we're going to move over to Ramiro here in just a moment for that whole process of getting the horse ready for the starting gate?
And go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, Kenny made a good point as far as, we sort them out and make our pairings. It's kind of it's a trial and error as far as pairing them up accordingly. And you learn especially when they come, we get them from a lot of different venues. They come from different farms, different facilities. And, a lot of times we get them from the sales, they're the most fit with the least gate experience. And that can be a little bit tricky. So they're very fast and fit on the track, but don't know much in the gate. So it's kind of a balancing act of trying to slow them down mentally, get them paired up in the gate to where they're supporting each other mentally and not, if one breaks really fast and you've got it with another one that doesn't know anything, it'll scare the other horse and kind of send them backwards in the gate. So you have to be careful as far as it's important to pair them up with the horse that's at the same level as they are as far as experience goes.
Okay. And just piggybacking off of what Joe said, we do a lot of breaking and training, not just for ourselves, for other trainers and for the sales. So in our program, when we're breaking and training at the farm, we literally walk through the gates once they've made it to the racetrack every day of their life, so that when those fit race horses are coming out of the sales and going on to the guys or gals at the racetrack, they've seen it, they know it, because you want to be able to, I don't need to break from a gate for the sales season, but I want them to walk in there and trust it and be comfortable with it, so that when Kenny or Joe or another trainer is taking these horses onward, they're not starting from ground zero with a really fit horse. It's really hard on the horse. You can really set yourself back a lot of time by not having that trust built up already. So we do a lot of gate exposure in the breaking and training process of what we do. And then when we transition to the track in our racing program, a lot of what Joe and Kenny said, same thing, just really reinforcing the trust in the gate, the trust the people around them, and to give them a positive experience. The more relaxed in the gate, the better they're going to break and the better they're going to run. Great.
Well, like I say, many races are won and lost in that starting gate. So, all right. So we're going to jump over to Ramiro. Ramiro, again, thanks for joining us. So we have a recent video from America's Best Racing who followed you Kentucky Derby Day. So let's go ahead and watch that video and just enjoy the experience that you had.
Come on, Javi! My name is Ramiro Restrepo. We're at the 149th Kentucky Derby. I'm a part owner of Mage, and today we're running for the Roses. Definitely has been a race-by-race thing. To be honest with you, we never wanted to let our dreams get in the way of reality. We've allowed the horse to bring us to here, running the Florida Derby, and even then he overcame a couple things and hit the front end for one brief second. we thought we might have been home, but he made us a winner anyway, brother. We're here at the Kentucky Derby, so you can't get any much better than this. And there's my guy. Yeah! What's up, Papa? Let's get him, baby. Let's get a little hug for the camera, bro. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to celebrate later on today, but.
Absolutely. Doing a report on your horse.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Dale,
oh, that's right. Oh, Dale, amazing to meet you. I mean, you're a legend, man.
Glad to be here.
No, fantastic, man. Well, awesome.
There you go.
Love it, man. Love it. No, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was cool. Did you get that? Yeah. Oh, no shit. Dale Earnhardt. That's the son of the Intimidator. What? My grandfather came here from Colombia in the late 60s. He brought his 7 kids, which included my 2 uncles and my mother, who was the youngest of the 7. They had to restart their lives, whether it was hot walking, grooms, working their way up to foremans, assistant trainers. I was always around the game. Caveats 83, Belmont, Swales 84, Kentucky Derby. Those were my cartoons. I didn't watch He-Man or the X-Men or Superman. The racehorses were my heroes. So this is my Uncle Harold, my youngest brother Andres, my other uncle Luis Cesar Alvarez, my mom Beatrice, and then my 2 aunts Ada and Yolanda. So the whole gang flew in from everywhere. They wanted to have one in the Derby. That was the family dream. And for me to be able to fulfill that for them as the flag bearer for the family, it leaves me speechless. And fortunately, my 2 uncles are here, and that's something else, man. All right, yeah, man. I need a second, man. That's something that Gustavo told Javier. Do not ride the other horses. Don't start looking around. Just believe and have faith in our horse.
What do you think?
What a moment, man. This is surreal.
I'll never forget doing it for the first time.
I can't even imagine. Look at the people. My goodness. It's something there's no words for this. It's kind of what everyone's always dreamed of in the family. You're finally reliving what everybody's always wanted. I'm carrying the flag for my 20 plus cousins, for my 6 aunts and uncles, the ones that aren't here. These are my grandfather's colors. They've been in the family since 1910. We won't be running in them today, but these silks, represent everything. Yep.
Have been waiting for this moment. Riders up!
Just looking around all the sensories, I'm just really at peace, thinking of a lot of special moments and just taking it all in, being present. It's so important, being in the right now, and regardless of what happens on the racetrack, this is a win, man.
They're all in line. We're ready for the start.
This is what you were born to do, baby.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby. And Chase's Road has a very good beginning and goes out to the front. Reincarnate and Kings Barnes have speed 2, and Verifying will join them from the inside. So it seems 4 early on. And then Hit Show to the inside. They're being followed by Rocket Can and Rains Cade. King Russell is next. Cyclone Bishop to the outside.
They're going really fast. They're flying. 22-1.
The 2 favorites are second to last and last as they race to the backstretch. It is Verifying in front.
45-2. They're flying.
Around the far turn. Kings Barnes, the undefeated runner for Todd Pletcher, is the leader. Here's 2 Bills making a move to the inside. And the 2 of them.
Come on, Pops!
And Jared Loveberry has taken
Come on, Bubba!
to the front. And they're into the stretch. And 2 Bills has turned for home on top.
Come on, Abby! 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 Oh my God! Come on, Abby! 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 We won! Get Amos! Oh my God! Get Amos! Get Amos! Get Amos! Get Amos! Get Amos! Get Amos! Oh my God! Get Amos! Ganamos, mama! Ganamos! Let's go! Ganamos! Ganamos! Holy mommy, ganamos! We won the derby! We won the derby! Vamos, vamos, come on! Oh my God! This is unbelievable! We did it, baby! Terry, thank you, my brother. Hey,
it's a great club. Welcome.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Turning for home, it was like see hero in '92, man. You started picking him off, and when they turned for home, and I saw he was the only one coming, it was just time to ride him home, and it happened. It was just unbelievable. We did it. We did it. This is what dreams are made of, man. This is what dreams are made of.
Hey, Ramiro, beautiful video, great video, and you rode that horse home nicely. Yeah, just like Jena's video from the Belmont. I mean, America's best racing, and they follow the owner of the Derby winner and the trainer of the Belmont one. I think next year I'm going to find out who they're following so I can put a bet on whoever they are, because it's incredible that they have both of these videos and both horses win the races. So Ramiro, man, congratulations. What's it been like the last 5-6 weeks for you after the Derby?
Well, first of all, congrats to Jena. Really cool. She's our, our neighbor on our Gulfstream, and very cool to see, the unusual suspects like ourselves and Jena win some big races on the Triple Crown show. Really cool. I'm sure her ride post celebration is just starting clearly, and it's been a couple of weeks for us as well. It's one of those feelings. You grow up watching Nick Zito screaming how he loves everybody, call NASCAR, whispering in Francis Genter's ear the race call and how they win. It's one of those feelings that even to this moment doesn't seem real, so reliving it by watching that video a minute ago is, the emotions are still raw,
Yeah, well, I mean, both you and Jena, for all of our audience, I mean, you're proof that this could happen for any horse at any time. So congratulations to all of you. And of course, Kenny, you've had plenty of great horses. Joe, you've had your share. But I want to kind of turn towards the owner's side of preparing for race day. And then we're going to come back to the trainers. So Ramiro, you had a lot of family members there. So, what do you guys do to prepare everybody for race day? I mean, is it just everybody shows up and has a good time, or is there a process you guys follow to get everybody on board for any race day?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously it depends on the race day itself. The bigger, flashier races tend to bring out more friends and family. And also if your partners, are big syndicates or are just a group of individuals, and if everybody can get into town, depending where the race is, a lot of it is just coordinating those logistics with, even starting the planning once the entry begins, trying to figure out hotels, speaking with the track, Director of Horseman Relations, to try to organize tickets, access to the paddock, just having things organized as much as possible prior to race day, so that when game day comes around, at least where everybody's gonna be sitting. People are gonna have their tickets already in hand. Whatever things the track might be able to give you, whether it's a box or table somewhere, or just tickets, kind of have to have that already in hand and distributed to your friends and family, partners, etc. Before race day begins, because there's already so much stress in preparation that the trainer has. That's the last thing you want them to worry about, is to take on the responsibilities of the ownership group. So hopefully there could be an owner that is designated the contact person, prior to whatever race day is coming up, to kind of organize those logistics for the whole group, so that it just becomes plug and play once it's race day.
Okay. So, we've been talking to the trainers about, getting the horse prepared for race day. So do owners have much input to that process? I mean, you've been around horse racing most of your life. Or is it something that owners should just leave strictly up to the trainers to make those decisions? So I'm going to put you on the spot here. So do you have much input with your trainer?
Well, fortunately, I think it's something that's on a case by case basis. You really have to gauge the expertise and knowledge that the ownership group might have. But, I remember, as a kid where there was no lot, you couldn't watch races from your house. You'd have to call a 1-800 telephone number to get the race replay to hear what the results were. And if your trainer couldn't get to a payphone to tell you what happened, and you were at the race, you wouldn't even know, what the result was. So, I think the days of the private entity as a trainer, as an owner, with, a large number of horses in his barn with one private trainer are long gone. The days of syndicates, large partnership groups, getting a lot of people involved are on the up. I mean, you see it a lot you see it in Australia to probably the highest degree, and it's something that's happening more and more in this country. And I think in that case, there should always be someone. The trainer has so many responsibilities with the horse itself that adding babysitting or someone trying to train and wanting to ride the horse too, for that matter. I mean, you can't have it. So, I mean, while the trainer should be the person to obviously dictate the entire training regimen and picking out the horse's races, this day and age with the internet and the involvement of being able to read condition books and stuff like that, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of over exuberant owners that, want to contribute their opinions and things, but, they should, while being able to have one person identified as the one to kind of speak to the ownership group to get maybe their opinions, if there are any, and then being able to at least, voice their side of the story to the trainer. But the owner doesn't live in the barn. The owner doesn't feed the horse. The owner doesn't train the horse. The owner doesn't ride the horse. You're making the decision to partner up with or hire a trainer to do their job. They're certainly qualified for it, and there's a reason why they're in that position. I try to avoid being Jerry Jones coming down in the fourth quarter to make a call on fourth down. That's not that's not why I'm there. For myself personally, as a bloodstock agent first, I put my input in what I want to buy at the sales and putting together the money to buy the horse. But once that horse hits the racetrack, it's in the hands of the person that you put in that position to make those calls. So, if a trainer wants to lend you their ear to kind of take your input, that's always welcome. But I believe that it should be the trainer's responsibility to make those race day decisions as to where they should be competing.
Okay. All right. Hey, we've got about 5 more minutes of panel discussion, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. So audience, if you have questions for the panelists, now would be a good time to submit them. So Kenny, Joe, Jena, do you agree on Joe or Ramiro's thoughts there that it's really the trainer's job? There isn't a whole lot of owner input to how to prepare the horse for racing?
Well, I do want to say something. The thing is, it's a million owners. They want to be the owner and the trainer. They're frustrated. They're frustrated armchair trainers, so there is that balance. I'm sure a lot of owners want to, chirp up and talk and give their opinions, but, you have to have the faith in the trainer. That's why you hired them.
It's I think it's kind of it's a situation where, for myself, the clients that we've had that we've acquired to be long-term clients, it's kind of an understood respect of give and take. And, there's a balance of, I feel like there's some owners that we've had that have been short-term, obviously, over the course of my career, and no hard feelings, but it's just certain personalities that'll sometimes seem to not gel together. And then there's the guys that have been there long-term, or and it's kind of, I think it's for each of us as trainers, it's just kind of what works with what owner. And I think when you hit that respect level with your owners, that there's an open space for discussion, for give and take, and there's it's not a heavy energy. It's a pretty comfortable energy amongst the two, at least, or the group. And at least that's what I've found in my personal career. So it's not something that is a uncomfortable space in our relationship long term. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
Okay. All right, let's just jump over real quick to older horses and just preparing an older horse for a race. Kenny, you had Swiss Skydivers. You won the Preakness. We've talked about getting a young horse ready for a race. Here you've got an experienced horse. How's that routine any different than preparing a young horse for a race?
Well, I think it's a lot different. I think that you've got to figure out a class level on an older horse. Like, for example, I've been fortunate enough to win the Louisville Handicap 5 times, actually, but they were all different types of horses that took different paths. Actually, 3 of them were Brazilian breds, but those type of horses route of ground. I've had more success with horses going longer, the distance races. But when they get from 3 to 4, I always say that 2-year-olds is kind of like high school, maybe college. 3-year-olds, okay, it's another level, but 3 and up and 4 and up's a whole nother deal, because you've got more mature horses, and then you've got I just think it's a higher hoop for a horse to jump through. And you can have a horse that's a very good 2-year-old and a very good 3-year-old and not be a good 4-year-old. And it just depends on the situation. Sometimes it's wear and tear. Sometimes horses just don't go to the next level. Or sometimes maybe we've done a good job with that horse as a young age, and then as an older horse, the rest of them catch up to him. Okay. So it depends. It's the challenge of taking a horse to another level. If you can get one to win at 2, 3, and 4 at the highest level, you've done a pretty darn good job.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I heard a trainer say once, the best thing about a 2-year-old is it'll turn 3. So, and to that point, Jena, Arcangelo, he raced his first start, I think, late in his 3-year-old season or 2-year-old season, and then came back in the winter and won. So talk about, I know you talked a little bit about preparing for that first race, but now he's an experienced horse, even though he's got 5 starts now?
Sounds right.
Yeah, 5 starts. So is his training routine much different than it was when he was much younger?
No, this is a colt that we've always known we were going to give a bunch of time to, and he's been a slower developing horse that we've talked about ad nauseum with everybody. So his training may be a little bit different than others in the sense that we allow more breathing room and more space for him, just because we wanted him to put on muscle and body and strength and maturity mentally. But older horses, for me, most of my career has been, having to remake older horses. And so I find them to be a lot of fun, where if you can get an older horse happy and just keep him happy, kind of what Kenny alluded to, they have their class established. And so you can get the best out of them and the most out of that experience with an older horse by just making sure that they're really happy. And I think some of the horses that have come to us, whether it was through claiming options, or, new ownership or whatnot, that's just been our full focus, is to make sure those horses are thriving and happy. Their guts are happy, that they're not ulcery and those kind of what sounds to be so simple. We all train basically the same. If we're all being honest with each other, we all go around the same racetracks. We're all doing about the same amount of mileage. So it's really the details that happen inside the barn, and the horse care, and the program, the feed program, nutrition, and all of those things. And so for us, that's something that we really lean heavily into and always have, is making sure horse first is thriving and happy. And those older horses, they have a level of fitness already, and it's just maintaining that level of fitness and making sure they're happy.
Okay. So Joe, we haven't talked about, a blacksmith or shoeing for a horse. And I think that's all part of preparing for a horse to race. So can you talk a little bit about, the importance of proper shoeing and how that can have an impact on training and eventually racing? And I'm just curious, do horses ever train without shoes?
Well, it's funny because everybody asks how my first Derby experience was, and I would have to say it was terrible, because I was going into it with a quarter crack with Gervin, and I think I've had one quarter crack in my career since. So, it wasn't a blacksmith's fault, but I think the feet are very important, and it's obviously the foundation. So it's something we're on top of all the time, and I think it's very important for them to be balanced. Horses are made differently. It's not a one size fits all, and it's just kind of seeing what works. You might have a horse having feedback between you're having an open space between your blacksmith, your assistants, your riders, and just because a horse might not be traveling well, sometimes it might need some pads, glue-ons, things like that can make a difference in the way they're traveling. It's small, but it's a simple detail that can really change the way the horse is moving and create a whole comfort or discomfort in their overall body. And like I said, for me, I think it's very important. I've got a very close relationship with my blacksmith, and so I think it's very important. And obviously, we're on top of hoof care within the barn as well. So,
okay. So, last question before we go to the Q&A: how does the groom and the exercise rider factor into preparing a horse to race? I mean, so the groom's with the horse every day, the exercise rider, gets on the horse every day. So what's their role in that whole process, Kenny? Your grooms and your exercise rider. I mean, I know you have your hands in a lot of it, but how much do you rely on them for information?
Well, you want continuity. A groom that's had the same horse for an extended period, I think is a really, really good idea. A rider that's on the same horse every day certainly can give you feedback if they don't feel like they had a good day, or if they had, maybe they didn't feel the same as they felt every day. But I think when you've got continuity and consistency with all that, then you're doing yourself and your team and your horse a favor. Your staff's got to know the horse. Obviously, there's times when none of us can be there on every horse every day. It's literally impossible. So when we set sets, we try to make sure that the horses go out at the same time, or at least they have a period of time. Some horses like going early, some horses like going later, some riders different time schedules. Some horses need ponies. So it really depends, but you want continuity more than anything.
Okay. Jenna and Joe, you want to add anything to that as it relates to your grooms and exercise riders?
Well, they're number one component. Good energy for your groom that's, kind and, leans into their horses and has that connection with them is so invaluable. And I prefer, there's some trainers that just don't want much feedback from riders. They see what they see and maybe not have the highest level of respect for some of what they think they may feel and feel they get bad feedback. I want to hear all of it, and I'll filter through it and figure out what they're trying to convey. And just one quick point on Joe's regarding blacksmith. Blacksmith is so important. Appreciating that we seem to be the shift away from this really long toe thing that the thoroughbreds were so famous for. And I think we're appreciating a much more balanced foot under a horse with a better breakover point. So not to backtrack, but I just wanted to piggyback onto what Joe said regarding blacksmiths as well.
Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the riders and the grooms are super important. I mean, the whole team in general. I still am fortunate enough to get on a lot of my own horses myself, and it's just something that I rely on and enjoy doing. But it is amazing just if a horse isn't having a day that's 100% themselves. I always relate them to, it's kind of like being a parent. I mean, you can see it in them and feel it in them, and pick up on the small things. And sometimes the small things can lead to bigger things, and sometimes the small things can just be an off day. But just being able to have that open feedback amongst your crew I think helps prevent any larger issues a lot of times.
Okay. Ramiro, anything you'd like to add as it relates to exercise riders or grooms or shoeing or anything we've talked about?
Look, I think like any time, if you look at any sport, everything from the head coach down to the coordinators to the physical trainers, in football, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the position coaches, the PT staff, the equipment staff, everyone from A to Z plays such a huge role in the success of an organization. And I don't think anything is any different when it comes to horse racing. The trainer, the assistant trainer, the foreman, the exercise rider, the grooms, the hot walkers, having help is so clutch to have guys that have the hands-on horsemanship, the experience to being around, good horses, taking care of them, being clued in on the horses to be able to relay that information up the chain to the head coach, little nuances that they might catch. The whole staff is around these horses 24/7. It's so important to have quality people, all the way down to the blacksmith, like was mentioned by Jena there, like that everyone's on point, because it's those little things that make those little tiny details that make the difference in the end.
Sure. Okay. So that wraps up our panel discussion. So now we're going to move into the question and answer session. And so while we sort through some of the questions, we're going to hear from our Q&A sponsor, West Point Thoroughbreds.
How do you become the gold standard in racing partnerships? One horse, one partner, one victory at a time. Congratulations to all our partners who have made West Point the gold standard for the last 3 decades.
Okay, we got some questions in the queue, so let me start with the first one. How do you go about selecting a jockey to ride your horses? And I'll even add to that more specifically, for a first-time starter, how do you know what jockey to use? So, Kenny, why don't you take that one?
Over the years, I've used a lot of the Cajun riders. So currently, Brian Hernandez rides a lot for me. In the past, DeSormo rode a lot when he was racing and riding in Kentucky. Alvarado, who we saw on some of the earlier videos, rode a lot for me. I could give you a long list of them. But I want somebody that has had time to come in the barn and get on a young horse a time or two. At this stage in my career, I don't get overly enamored with the big namers. I like to use somebody that's consistent, that's reliable, that certainly gives us a good ride, but is also about teaching and then the evolution of a horse's career. And at this stage, Brian rides a lot for me. I enjoy doing business with his agent, Frank. Julian LePeroux rides a bit for me also. Right now I'm in New York, and we're probably going to use maybe Dylan Davis on a horse. I rode one-on-one the other day. But more than anything, if they haven't been getting on the horse, I want them to get a set of instructions that I think that it should be pretty easy for them to follow. And as long as they stick to that, I'm easy to ride for.
Okay. And Jena, you rode Javier on Saturday, and he just won the Derby a few weeks prior on Mage. How'd you go about selecting Javi as your jockey for Arcangelo?
I felt that Javier was a really good fit for him. Just being a immature colt, I really wanted that experience, and he's got a good energy about him, and will read a race and let a race unfold. And so I typically, because of me being smaller and all the other variables, will stay away from some of the bigger names, because I want kind of what Kenny said. I want that really hard ride from the guy it means so much to them and they're hungry for it. More than anything, I want a rider that's going to ride to the wire and not just wrap up, because the horses don't need a Tour de France on the racetrack. They need to go out there and be ridden. Even if we're not the winner, we want to get as much out of that race as possible so it can springboard us to the next. So we backed the decision for Javier was honestly a very organic one. And, the rest of the stable, it's trying to find a rider that suits your training style a little bit, and the horse and what you're looking to see.
Okay. Here's a question for Joe. Hey, does an experienced horse know that it's race day because their routine has changed? So talk about that a little bit.
I would say absolutely, especially an older horse, classier horse, or even just an older horse. It's like sometimes those starter horses, and obviously your classic horses. They always, they can tell the difference. They get switched on. Their energy gets different, and they know they've got a different kind of just. They kind of puff up a little bit, swell up, and just they're athletes, they're competitors, and a lot of them love their job, and they just really, you can see it in their expression, their energy, and just it's fun to see the good ones inflate when it's time for game time.
Okay.
I have a funny story about a horse that I trained years ago.
All right.
And some of you may remember Tejano Run. He was second in the Derby in '95.
Oh yeah.
And this horse, from early in his career, he would ship and run. It wasn't unusual for us to put him on the truck and take him to Keeneland from Churchill, or he would go Churchill to Turfway, and then Churchill to Keeneland. So he started figuring out that when he got on a truck, it was game day. So I had him at Churchill, and then on Derby day, I put him on the truck, and we drove him around Louisville for about 15 minutes, and then we put him back in the barn, and he ran second. So he understood that, hey, this was time to go. I haven't had a horse like that in since then, really, that was quite as responsive to a van ride as that one.
Okay. All right. Good one. Hey, speaking of van ride, so if a horse needs to ship to the racetrack to run, how far in advance do you make the trip? And is there any disadvantage in vanning a horse versus horses that are right there resident at the track? So, Joe, what do you think? Vanning a horse or even flying a horse, does it take much out of them?
Well, it depends on where you're going, distance traveled, things like that. I mean, I think obviously there's always a benefit to having been at the track, getting to, we like to try to, if we can, be there and have a day at paddock school and things like that, especially ahead of a big race. Logistically, that doesn't work on your day in, day out, when you're shipping from, say, Churchill over to Indiana for a allowance or a maiden race, things like that. It doesn't necessarily make sense. But, I think there is a benefit to be able to be there and having trained over the track and had a day to settle in, if you can do so, or even had a breeze over the track. That being said, we've been able to win races shipping in the day of. I don't think you'd want to ship more than a couple hours on race day, ideally, to run. But I've seen a lot of different ways to get the same result.
Okay. Here's a question. Can you talk about the veterinarians and their relationship with the horse and its health? For example, do trainers have their own vets for a particular horse, or do they use a track veterinarian, or both? So, Jenna, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that relationship with the veterinarian and your horses?
Typically, you've got a veterinarian that's part of your team in the sense of they know your horses, they take care of all your day in and day out stuff, your general medical, herd health from vaccines and all those kinds of things, because everything is quite controlled as it should be in the backside. There are some barns, and I, again, respect everyone runs their business, that are veterinary forward, where they let the vets kind of jog up horses every single day, or they have a weekly thing that they do and whatnot. I'm very blessed and fortunate with my background, with my team's background, that we don't function that way. We're more of, we train, and if there's something we don't like or we want to work towards or think something that's just not 100%, then we'll bring them in the fold and have that conversation, and typically then pull the ownership group in or owner in and say, here's what we're finding. This is what we think we should do and how we should manage and whatnot. So every trainer has a different and unique relationship with the veterinarian, and owners care about bills and watching bottom lines as well. And so, we try and be responsible with respecting that and making sure that there's not surprises on the vet bill.
Okay. Well, here's a question about preparing a horse for turf racing. So how different is that from preparing a horse to race turf versus dirt, and how they train on either surface? So, Kenny, you want to try to take that one?
Well, first of all, you better make sure your shoeing's correct, because they've got shoeing rules nowadays. And if you don't have toe grabs off, or if your toe grabs too long, then they can paddock scratch you. But for the most part, I think a good turf horse is a horse with a really long hip on them. They typically tend to be a little more flat-footed, a little longer in the pastern. But a turf horse is probably one that I would spend more time on gallops as opposed to fast workouts. And it's one of those most of those gallop or staying races, like I said, I've had more luck in the distance races. I'm not necessarily a 5.5 grass type. You'll have to ask or invite Wesley to this forum to get more info on that, because he's a genius at it. But for me, the longer gallops and probably keeping it simple is probably the best approach.
Okay. All right. One last question. This goes for everyone. We'll start with Ramiro. So it's race day. Talk about the emotions you go through on race day. So it's morning race day. What's it like for y'all?
Well, I think the most important thing for anyone that's involved with the horse is, from my perspective, from the owner perspective, is to live in the moment, be present, really soak in the experience. It's a real fortunate thing to have a horse racing. It's a blessing and it's a gift. And I think it's something that you really need to soak up the entire experience, from getting to the track, and whether you pay a pre-race visit to the barn or just getting to the track and taking in the sights and sounds and watching the races before yours, and just really enjoying the moment with family and friends. Don't take that for granted. That feeling of knowing that you have a horse on race day as an owner, I think it's something that you should really enjoy, everything from A to Z, and that's even before the outcome of the race. Really take in that time to be thankful and to really be grateful to be, surrounded with your partners, and just taking the experiences. At this point, your job as an owner is done, and it's just up to the horse that he's going to have a great day and get a little luck on the track. So don't try to stress, add any unwarranted stress to the situation. You're not going to be doing the riding. The trainer's already done everything necessary to have the horse ready to run on race day. So don't, add any negative energy or negative, impact to the day. Everything's, trusting in the crew that you've built around you to get you to this day, and just, really enjoy it and take in the race, and hopefully you'll be the one rooting him home to the wire.
So Joe, it's race day. So what are your emotions during the day? We saw some of your emotions during that video. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's obviously fortunately it's one of those deals. I think that for all of us, the more you run, fortunately there's still that feeling that I wouldn't call it a first time feeling, but there is still emotion every day when you have a horse running, no matter what level it is. There's emotion invested, which I guess as long as that's happening, you're still in the right place in your career. And, try not to let the highs get too high and the lows get too low, and, look around and make sure, to be grateful for why we're here in the horse, and the reason, what we get up and do for a living every day, and just be appreciative of that, kind of touching on what Ramiro said. So
Kenny, you've started a lot of horses over the years. You still get butterflies on race day?
The older I get, no. I used to get pretty wound up and probably a little obsessive compulsive when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, and even probably 40s. Having recently turned the big 6-0, it's not unusual for me to run my early horses and go home and take a nap and wait for the bigger race, and then slide in there about an hour before we leave for the paddock. You learn, don't worry about things you can't control. And then you also learn to trust your staff. And I'm fortunate I got really good staff. And then I try to delegate the tickets off to my wife in my office. And that's probably the bigger, I don't know if I'd call it irritation, but dealing with the ticketing every day is the least of my, I don't want to do that. But all in all, I want to enjoy it. I get more pressure when I have a horse that's a favorite than a long shot. When a long shot, I'm pretty relaxed, and there's kind of all to win and nothing to lose. But those 4 to 5 favorites, I think I had a repent 4 to 5 favorite in the Louisiana Derby, and I was a nervous wreck, and he won by about that much. So anyway, it all depends, but mostly pretty relaxed.
Okay. And Jena, we saw a few emotions from your video from last Saturday. And I know you've been on a whirlwind tour, saw you on Fox News the other day. So just talk about what's it like for you on race day, even last Saturday. Here you are on the big stage. with a horse that's got a real shot at winning. He does win. What was that day like for you, or any race day for you? Just the emotions of going through the day.
I'm pretty, you can't change it. So you try and lean into it and just be there and present, for ownership and stuff, and having people around. You're hosting their experience, and, I want them to have an amazing time. They're invested in our sport. It's an entertainment, it's a business. And so it's, as much as it's not supposed to be about me, it's supposed to be about them and the horse. And so I do try and foster that environment with our group and with people that are there to enjoy the day. And, ownership needs to enjoy what they're putting so much into. As far as the big day, it was just, got the morning done, training done, fly back to the hotel, get changed, showered, get back to the, I'm not a huge one to be up front all day. It's just, I'd rather be in the barn. It's a little quieter. So, went up for a short spell to, say hi to a couple people, but then I went and hid in the barn for a while and enjoyed the quieter side of things. And I want everyone to enjoy what's going on up front. It's just not my vibe all day long to be around all of that. And, just really try to stay present, chit chat, and I think actually ABR just dropped they were following us, as you alluded to. So people will be able to see the journey of that day and, try and have some fun, keep it light. I think sometimes we get so serious about this. So definitely try and keep in perspective in the day, enjoy the day. Obviously, we root ours hard pretty home anytime, but obviously Belmont Day was probably cranked up a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that video is going to have a life of its own. So,
it seems.
Yeah, so that wraps up our Q&A. And all right, so I'd really like to thank our panelists for their time, your insights, a lot of good information. Thank you, Jena. I know we contacted you at short notice. Really appreciate the busy week you're having and being here, for our audience. Kenny, always great to have you on these panels. Joe, great to have you. Ramiro, just keep up that everything with Mage and everything with Arcangelo, Jena, and we'll be back again in July with a panel on jockeys. And I'd like to thank the audience the most, because owners are so important to our sport. They invest in our sport, and without owners, we simply just don't have an industry. So thank you to everyone for participating, our speakers, our sponsors, the audience, and hopefully we'll see you back in July with our jockeys. And until then, we hope you visit the Winner's Circle often.